Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here. Happy Wednesday. All right, so let's begin. We can take our thumbs and tuck them into our fingers. We can rest our hands on our thighs. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. And we'll just take a moment to bring our awareness to the three treasures. The Jing, the Qi, and the Shen, also known as, or sometimes referred to as, the body, the breath, and the focus of the mind. And we've talked about it before, but it's definitely worth repeating that there is a sequence in bringing our awareness to the three treasures. And we begin with the Jing, with the body, because that is what is most tangible, most noticeable, the densest form of energy of those three is our bodies. Our body helps to ground us into the present moment. And so bringing awareness to the body, whatever that means for you, that could mean feeling the sensation of your seat on whatever you're sitting on, or the sensation of your feet on the ground, the sensation of your alignment within gravity, any areas of comfort or discomfort, the sensation of your clothes against your skin, any sounds in the room going on around you. Any and all of those things help to bring our awareness to our bodies, to our physical sensations, to what's happening right here and now. And as we become grounded in the present, in our bodies, what you may then start to notice more of is your breath and the movement and sensation of your breath as it fills your body and as it moves through your body. And as you settle into the noticing of your body and the noticing of your breath, you may notice that you notice other things as well. And so you can just continue to notice the focus and the quality of your mind. And if the focus and the quality of your mind seems to be a little unruly, you can always use your intention to direct it towards your breath and towards your body. And whenever you're ready, you can bring your hands together and you can rub the palms together. Continue noticing the sensation of your alignment, the movement of your breath, and the focus of your mind. Feel free to massage your hands, one hand with the other hand. And then a nice deep breath in. And exhale, shaking out the hands. And then let's rub our palms together again, and we'll do the short version of the self-massage, seated. So we can begin by taking our hands and massaging our faces up and out a couple times. And when you're ready, your hands can then just go right over your scalp, and you can go front to back or back and forth. And then your hands can slide down the back of your neck and around the base of your neck to the top of your chest, and you can massage over your chest, down your sternum, over your lungs and your heart, and then to the lower rib cage, and then even into the belly and the internal organs. And then when you're ready, your hands can come around your waist to the lower back in the area of the kidneys. And then when you're ready, you can draw your hands out, shake them out. And then rub the palms together again. And you can tuck your thumbs back into your fingers and your hands on your thighs. And return to the three treasures. Awareness of the body, the breath, and the focus of your mind. And this is really the beginning and the end of all Qigong practice. Bringing awareness to the three treasures as often as it occurs to you. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. All right. So, before we move on today, are there any questions? The last 2 weeks, we kind of, discussed sinew meridians and things like that. And I think someone had a question last week, but the volume on my computer wasn't turned up, so I didn't hear the question. But the volume on my computer is turned up now. So if there are any questions about anything that we've gone over or haven't gone over even, just opening it up to that. Going once? Okay. So if not, then what we'll do is we'll move on. So, I talked last week about maybe doing the jade body again but there was some requests to do some different things. So we're going to do something different. and there was also a request for kind of a little bit of discussion as well. So we're going to start today with some discussion. I kind of, I've mentioned before, when I do the in-person classes, I have a big chalkboard and I can put a bunch of stuff on the chalkboard and talk about it. And so I've tried to do something like that on this format, so we can go through it that way. And if this is something that you like, having discussion like this about these topics, like what we're going to do today, feel free to let me know. If it's something that you'd rather not have happen in this context of this class and just allow this class to be more focused on practice, and if we were to do something like this discussion in another format, you can let me know that too. Okay, so before we get into the discussion, I do think it is important to, I guess, create a little bit of context. So to do that, what I'm going to do is share with you the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching. And this is a copy of the Tao Te Ching that I really like. I have several. This one, the Tao Te Ching in Clear English, is a nice translation. I mean, I have many different translations. None of them are the same. And some I like more than others. And I really like this one. So if you're interested in checking out a version, this is a good one. It has it in English. It has it in Chinese. It also has it in Pinyin. And then it even goes through how they got to the translation that they got to. So if you like to geek out on this stuff like I do, this is a good thing to check out, this version. But, so again, we're going to talk about some stuff. Today in particular, we're going to talk about Qi. But before we talk about Qi, here's this first chapter. So the first chapter of the Tao Te Ching says, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. Nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. Named is the mother of 10,000 things. Being empty, see the wonder. Being present, see the appearance. These two are the same, but have different names. This is mystery. Mystery upon mystery, the doorway to wonder. This is a good book. I recommend it. If you're not familiar with it, you should check it out. It's good. So, again, we're going to be talking about things. We're going to be naming things. But it's important to remember that as we're presenting these names of things, the names of the things are not the things themselves. But there are these things that have been named, and they help us to understand. So we can be present with the appearance of things, but we can also know that those names are not the things, and what we're present with is something beyond what we can really name and even understand. We can be empty and be present at the same time. And in that way, we can know that we don't know, and that keeps us in a state of wonder of the mystery that's going on around us all the time. So I think that's just a beautiful thing. So with that, now let's name some things and talk about the Tao that can't be talked about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen, and then and I have some pictures of things that we can look at while I talk about them. So I'm going to do that now. Let's see how this goes. Okay, so hopefully you're seeing my screen as I'm sharing it. And what's on the screen right now is a picture of the pictograph, the Chinese character for Qi. And so some of you may have seen this before. This may be familiar to you. So when we say Qi, a lot of times it gets people like me who practice Chinese medicine and Qigong in trouble with other people who are a little more skeptical about these types of things. And they say, well, what's this Qi that you're talking about? This kind of, magical energy that's flowing through our bodies. Like, what's that? Prove to me that this exists. And so we're going to attempt to do that. We'll see how it goes. So, but this is the character for Qi. And again, it's a picture. Chinese words are pictures. a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so it's great that the Chinese words are pictures because there's a lot to them. And so hopefully you can see my pointer here. And so this lower part of the character, this is a picture of rice, actually. And then this up here, this is like, you know, the sky and something descending from the sky. And this is the earth and something rising up from the earth. And from this descending from the sky and rising from the earth, we have this kind of in-between thing that's going on. So often the way this picture is described is that this up above is steam rising off of a pot of cooking rice. And so that's one way of understanding it, you know, thinking of like the, you know, okay, so we have rice, we have water, we have fire, and this whole dynamic is interacting with each other and it's creating this steam, you know, and we can then eat the rice and that gives us energy to do things. So that's one way of looking at it, but it's also, again, it's much broader than that, as far as there's this dynamic between the skies above and the earth below, and there's also this substantial thing, this substance of rice. It's almost like this up here is more like energetic and yang, and this down here is more substantial and yin. And so we have this interaction of yin and yang. It's not too unlike the yin yang picture, the Tai Chi, yin and yang interacting with each other, kind of creating this dynamic. So this is the picture of Qi. This is from the Chinese version. And again, it's most often, this word is most often translated in the West as energy. In the East, in China, Qi is most often translated as breath. But it doesn't necessarily mean just the breath like that we breathe. It's kind of the respiratory apparatus of the whole universe. Like everything is breathing and being breathed in some sense. And so it's talking about that type of Qi. So that's this picture. And as we're going along, and also when we're done, there is, you know, questions are allowed. So please feel free to ask a question if you have one. So this is our first slide, the Chinese character for Qi. So then we'll go to the West and we'll put up a picture of an equation. And this is a very simplified equation that represents the Krebs cycle, or sometimes called the citric acid cycle. And what it's talking about is basically how, you know, food and air become energy. And then the byproduct is carbon dioxide and water. It's like we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide. We eat some food, we get some energy, and we produce some water. So when we're talking about Qi in the Western sense, this is kind of what we're talking about right here, you know. And so let's get a little bit more into this. So I actually found a nice simple definition of the Krebs cycle, and so I'll put that up and we'll kind of break it down. And hopefully this won't make anyone's eyes cross. And we're gonna take it slow and you know, again, break things down. And this is being recorded so you can watch it again. You can also ask questions. And you know, this is not the lightest material, so it's okay if it all doesn't make sense immediately. But hopefully it will make a little bit of sense by the time we're done. So the definition of the Krebs cycle is, it's a series of chemical reactions that occur in most aerobic organisms. So an aerobic organism, that's a living thing that must breathe oxygen in order to live. So the Krebs cycle is a series of chemical reactions that occurs in living things that need to breathe. And these chemical reactions are also a part of the process of aerobic cellular metabolism, which basically means living facilitated by breathing on the cellular level. So these chemical reactions are the same, like on the big level of our whole bodies and the small level of each one of our cells. And so this process is the process by which glucose and other molecules are broken down in the presence of oxygen. That's important. They're broken down in the presence of oxygen. So breathing, very important. And they're broken down into carbon dioxide and water to release chemical energy in the form of ATP. So this definition of the Krebs cycle is in the dictionary. And when you talk about things like qi or energy, to some people, they say, well, that's a bunch of baloney. I don't believe it. And yet, according to our own Western biomedical biochemistry, this Krebs cycle releases chemical energy. What is that? What is chemical energy? In the form of ATP. Well, some of what we know about chemical energy in this Krebs cycle, what gets released is this ATP basically just creates a field. It creates this situation for electrons to be transported. What's an electron? An electron is a negatively charged vacillation of light that we can't see. We can only know where it's not. So that's interesting. Like when we really kind of break down even our Western understanding, our scientific understanding, it kind of gets to a point where we're talking about things that we have never seen and we don't really know exactly what they are. We just kind of have this experience of them and we have these names for them, like electrons or ATP or chemical energy, but those names aren't really the thing that we're talking about. It's a very kind of nebulous thing. But what we do know is that this ATP, it is released in the presence of oxygen and glucose, and the byproducts are what we exhale, carbon dioxide, and water, what moves in our bodies and what we excrete, when we urinate and things like this. So to put this kind of more in a picture form, let's go to this. So it's the Krebs cycle again, but I'm breaking it down a little bit more. So we have the Krebs cycle. So this part of the Krebs cycle is glucose, also known as food. And this is oxygen, which is what we inhale. And then here we have carbon dioxide and water. So the ATP, that's this chemical, energy that's released through this process of eating and breathing and exhaling and moving. And also this ERGs, which is just an abbreviation for energy. Like again, that's that chemical energy that's released. And so when you think about it, like it looks a little complex unless you're a biochemist, like some of you in this class I think are. But when you think about it, it's food plus air equals energy. So that's not too complex. It's kind of the way that our parents or our grandparents might say like, hey, have some food, have a snack, eat an apple or some soup or something, and then go outside and run around and play. And then you'll live a good life and you'll be well, right? Food plus air equals energy. So now let's return to this Chinese character of qi, and hopefully what I'm wanting to demonstrate is that the Krebs cycle description here is actually the exact character that we just looked at. So the Chinese character for qi is rice, aka food, glucose, and this movement of energy between heaven and earth, sometimes described as steam or air or oxygen. So food plus air is qi. So again, it's not very different. Like the way that we just described this Krebs cycle, food plus air is energy. So food plus air is energy. And what do we mean by energy? It's our ability to live and to do work. It's our cellular metabolism. It's our aerobic metabolism. It's what keeps us living. It's these releases of chemical energies that helps to facilitate movement of electrons, whatever they are, down a concentration gradient, getting from one area to another area, like from our blood into our tissues, or from our cells, from our blood into our cells, from our cells back out into our blood and into our lymph. So again, when we talk about qi, it can sometimes seem very strange and very nebulous, but it's actually pretty standard. It's what we eat and how we breathe. And so when we apply this to our Qigong practice, I think most of us, we eat we're able to eat. Most of us eat pretty well. Most of us tend to eat even more than we need to. I think if there's something that we could really use more of or more management of, it's our breath. Because again, when we talk about the Krebs cycle, all of these things, the glucose and other molecules are broken down in the presence of oxygen. That's very important. In the presence of oxygen to get the chemical energy to do what we need to do. And so a lot of us don't have enough oxygen, or the way that we breathe. We talked about this a little bit last week. You know, we never had to learn how to breathe. And so that's why some of us don't do it so well. If anything, like we were able to breathe optimally just when we were born. We didn't have to learn it. It happened all the time. And if anything, we were taught how not to breathe more than we were taught how to breathe. You know, like when we were told you should stand up straight, or puff out your chest, or hold your belly in, or don't cry, or don't yell, or, you know, don't laugh like that, or whatever it was that we weren't supposed to do, or what we were supposed to do. That usually leads to a restriction of our breathing, which then lowers the presence of oxygen in our bodies, which then makes all of these metabolic processes less efficient. So we have less energy. Most of us have plenty of glucose in our systems. Some of us have so much glucose in our systems that our cells will no longer process it. This is what is called type 2 diabetes. And so we have more than enough. We have this energy that isn't being used. And if it's not being used, it's going to be stored. And if we're carrying around a lot of stored energy, that then starts to affect how we're able to function. This then gets back into what we talked about a couple weeks ago with the sinew meridians and the channel distinctions and the habits of form. And if we can breathe and breathe more freely and breathe more fully, we can take that stored energy and we can actually break it down into carbon dioxide and into water and into other chemical energies that then actually get used and get processed and get cleared out of our systems, so that then we don't have to carry that around with us anymore. And we can actually then be experiencing the energy that's just present in the moment, as opposed to the energy that we've been carrying in our bodies for decades sometimes. So this is where the breath becomes so essential, and where Qigong practice, where we're doing some movement so that we can get breath into more areas of our body, and we can bring oxygen into the presence of more of those places in our body and more of those stored resources in our body, so that those resources can then be converted into energy, chemical energy. That's the Western term. Or we could say we can break those resources down into qi, and then we can use that qi to live our lives and ideally live a happy and a healthy life. So one thing that I appreciate about the Chinese version, about this picture as opposed to this picture, is because again, they're very similar. They're essentially saying the same things, but this is pretty definite. Like here we're talking about glucose, and that's all we're talking about. We're talking about oxygen, and that's all we're talking about. But in this picture, when we're talking about rice, we're also talking about yin. We're also talking about something substantial, like the earth, like Jing, like our bodies, the substance of our bodies, the substantial matter that we can feel and touch and experience. And when we talk about oxygen or air or movement, we're talking about something that's yang. We're talking about the heavens, the sky above us. We're talking about something like that is insubstantial, like the focus of the mind or the spirit, the shen. And so it's not only glucose and oxygen, it's also the interplay of heaven and earth. And when these two things, when we have this heaven above descending down, and if it's rain, if it's sunlight, if it's whatever it is, and if we have the energies of the earth rising back up, in between we have things like clouds or fog or wind or cold or heat. We have this movement, we have this dynamic that is also a type of energy. And so we have this microcosmic energy inside of us. We have this macrocosmic energy outside of us. And that dynamic is constantly going on. And when we're bringing awareness to our bodies and to our breaths and the focus of our minds, and we're feeling what it feels like to be who we are and where we are and how we are, and then also extending that awareness even beyond ourselves into the environment around us, and feeling that, and feeling the interplay, the dynamic of inside and outside and all of those things, we can just notice more about what's going on. And then rather than just feeling like we're being tossed about and we have no control or understanding about what's going on, we can begin to calm some of that down and drop into some stillness and be able to manage what arises in a way that is useful to ourselves, to the people around us. So that's why I appreciate these pictures, because again, the picture is worth 1,000 words. You know, they're worth a lot, but they're worth that you take them at face value. Here you have a little bit more room to interpret and to expand and to gain more insight. And then when I was just kind of drawing all this out, there's something else that kind of occurred to me that I thought was pretty cool. So if we go to this last picture, so we have our Krebs cycle up here. And again, we have this symbol up top, which kind of means like they're becoming each other, you know, like it's glucose and oxygen, which gives us energy, and carbon dioxide and water, but it's this energy and our excretions that make it possible for us to then acquire more glucose and oxygen. So this is like a feedback loop. It goes back and forth in and out of each other. And so when we take this symbol and kind of look at it by itself, it's not too unlike this symbol in Qi, which I think is pretty interesting, because I'm not sure if whoever came up with this symbol had ever even seen this symbol, but it's just one of those things that kind of, you know, it makes me go, huh, look at that. And it's like, I think, you know, the Jungians would be very happy about seeing how like these symbols are showing up in these very different kind of philosophical and intellectual traditions. But there is this common thread that goes through them both, which is very interesting. So that's a little bit about that. Are there any questions about any of that? Or anything that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I am just trying to understand the relationship between energy and emotions. And so I'm wondering if it's energy that affects our emotions, or if it's the other way around, or kind of both.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I guess I would say, for me, just off the top of my head, I think I would probably say it's both, you know,
Okay.
because there are things that happen that produce an emotional response, but in our emotional response, there's going to be energy that's released inside of us. You know, it's
Right.
also interesting to note that any kind of emotion, whether it's like a happy or positive type of emotion, or a negative type of emotion like fear or anger or anything like that, any of them are going to affect our breathing to one extent or another. And so I think that's one of the things we talk about in Chinese medicine, is that, you know, it's not like any emotion is negative or positive, but when we look at the kind of the intensity of an emotional reaction, that's where it might have a negative or a positive impact on the body. Like someone might be so happy, but so incredibly happy that they actually start to go a little bit manic, you know,
Right.
and that's because it's a very intense type of happiness, you know, whereas anger can be very useful. Like initially anger shows up as a type of assertiveness. Like that's what, you know, pushes us to pursue things like social justice and take action against things that we feel are wrong. But then if that anger persists so much, it can start to become destructive, the intensity of it.
Mhm.
And so that's where I feel like, you know, yeah, I think energy plays a role on both sides of emotions. But then looking at, again, in the presence of oxygen or in the presence of the breath, and to what extent does the emotion limit the breath or hinder the breath, or take our ability to be present with our breath away from us.
Mm.
And so if we can then bring awareness back to the breath, we might be able to then be present with whatever emotion is there and be able to manage it so that it doesn't run away with us.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
Hello?
Yes. Hi.
Hi. And so do we take that serving of a pot of rice with us as we start to walk and it feel like it transforms, we can feel it transforming with oxygen and then moving into movement so we get more oxygen?
Right. So the pot of rice, yeah, that's like the energy that we have in our bodies, whether it's the breakfast or lunch that we've had, or if it's just the food that we've eaten a long time ago, but we never actually utilized. We didn't access the energy that we took in from that food because maybe we didn't move or breathe enough. So when we do start moving, like we have this pot of rice, we have our body, and so what we want to do is we want to perform movements that facilitate the breath. And so that's really what our movement practice of Qigong is about. It's about moving in a way that invites more breath into our lungs and into our bodies, and then gets that breath circulating throughout the body as well. And so the movements, not only draw the breath in, but they also distribute the breath throughout the body. And so that's where we do certain movements that activate certain muscles or stretch areas that are sometimes tight. And so when a muscle is very tight, it tends to be weak because when it's tight, it's not having blood, which is carrying oxygen. It's not having that blood and oxygen flow through it. So then it's not able to get nourished, and then it can't utilize the energy that's there. So yeah, it's like rice that's just kind of, it's been cooked, but then we took it out of the pot and put it in some Tupperware, and now it's just sitting in the refrigerator, and we start to look like refrigerators after a little while. So we want to do some movements to clear ourselves out.
So then instead of going to the refrigerator, we can go for a walk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's part of the concept of breatharianism, where people are just breathing, or even, the practice of fasting has existed in all cultures and all traditions forever, and part of that is because energy that isn't used gets stored. And so there's this idea that if we're storing a whole lot of energy, that can slow down our ability to function. And that can actually start to become toxic after a little while. And so when we fast, we're still breathing, we're breathing constantly, but then we're actually starting to we're forcing ourselves, rather than taking in more food energy, we're tapping into that stored food energy that's already there. And then we can use that and clear ourselves out and cleanse ourselves. And that actually has been, like in ancient Greece, the philosophers, like Plato and Aristotle and Socrates and all of them, it's like they write about how they would fast before they would then go into their kind of states where they would have their philosophical insights, because fasting helps you to get clear. And it actually, your body prioritizes certain glucose molecules for the cells of your brain. So if you're not eating them and then you're starting to burn through your reserves, your body will say, okay, well, we need these glucose molecules specifically for our brain, so let's hoard them and then send them up there. And then your brain gets fed in a really good way. Meanwhile, your organs get to cleanse themselves out. So yeah, I would say, again, nowadays, especially in our modern Western culture, we have a condition of excess. That is our condition in the West for the most part. You don't see people who are very deficient. If people present as deficient, it's often because there's a lot of stagnation and blockage. And the stagnation and blockage comes from too much excess. So what we want to do is we want to move stagnation so that then wherever deficiencies are there, and again, the deficiencies aren't a true deficiency, it's more like there's a dam in the river, everything on one side of the dam is deficient, everything on the other side of the dam is excessive. And so if we can remove the dam and then get things moving through and get things nourished, and then the false deficiencies aren't there, and then we can really just start to then manage what's going on. And a lot of times it has to do with just clearing out the stuff that we don't need, the stuff we're holding on to that doesn't need to be there. And again, this comes back to our practice and what we'll do today, which is focusing on the breath. We're going to do some movements and practices that are all about breath work. And so it's about facilitating the breath. And when we work with the breath, we typically start slow and then we increase the pace. And so again, because we're often talking about there's deficiency, there's excess, there's also stagnation. And so what we want to do is we want to start slow so that our body can comfortably kind of pick up the pace and manage things. And just by starting slow in a nourishing kind of way, in a relaxing kind of way, some of those stagnations will start to soften and things will start to move. And then as things are moving, then we can go a little bit faster and then we can flush things through and flush things out and then get to that place where we can be empty and also present, and present with the wonder of the mystery. Okay, so anything else about this?
No.
Okay,
No.
so I'm going to stop my screen share. All right. So thank you all very much for indulging me in that and letting me talk about that kind of stuff. I hope that it was useful. And again, if there are questions or things, you know, that you want clarified about that, you can always let me know via email or text, or, you know, or bring up the questions here. Okay. So after all that talking, now what we can do is we can do our practice, and we're going to do some practices, some movements that we have done before. Most of them are familiar, but we're going to do them with a real focus on the breath. Okay, so let's begin. And you're welcome to do anything that we're doing seated or standing. I'm going to stand. Okay, so you can just find yourself in a comfortable standing posture. Your feet can be hips width apart or shoulder width apart. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes for just a moment so you can bring your awareness into your body. I'm just going to mute this person. All right. Good. So let's rub our hands together. And we're just going to do a very brief standing self-massage and then do some movements. So relaxing, maybe a little shake, loosening up ourselves, shaking out the hands, breathing. Let's rub our hands together. And then again, we can massage our faces up and down a couple times. And take care when you massage your face to, you know, spend a little time around your eyes and your eye sockets. And then when you're ready, you can bring your hands over your scalp, back and forth a couple times, or front to back. And then let's take our hands and just make several forward circles over our ears. And then a big breath in and shake it out. So let's massage our shoulders a little. So I need to support my elbow here, so you can do that. And then you can make a beak with your hand, or you can use your fist, or like a karate chop, and just massage your shoulder a couple times on one side. Doesn't have to be too hard. Just do it in a way that feels good, feels relaxing. And then when you're ready, you can switch to the other side. And then when you're ready, big breath in, shake it out. And then let's take one hand and we can just kind of stimulate our chest underneath our collarbone in the upper chest area. Maybe coming down over the side of the sternum. And then while you're doing this with your upper hand, you can bring your lower hand to the bottom of the other rib cage, the other side. And then let's change sides. So just patting under the collarbone and just massaging around. You can even come down along the side of your sternum if that feels good. Just follow sensation. You might feel your chest opening in certain areas, and so you can kind of follow that opening with your hand. Just see what it feels like. See what happens. Breathe into the shape of what you feel. And then whenever you're ready, you can bring your lower hand to the bottom of the rib cage on the other side. And then a deep breath in and shake it out. We can massage our belly. And when we massage the belly, think about the organs that are under your hands. Even if you don't know exactly where they are or exactly what they look like, I'm sure we have all heard about our liver and our lungs and our intestines and our heart and our kidneys. So just think about them. Breathe into them. When you're ready, your hands can come around your waist to the low back. And then you can draw your hands out. And then let's pat up one arm and down. Let's do that 2 more times. Waking our body up, inviting chi. Let's tap the fingertips and up the other side, down the inside. 2 more times. Good. Big breath in. Shaking it out. Now let's pat our low backs. And down the back of the legs. Take your time. Behind the knees. Down the calves. And just one more time. Massaging the belly. And then another big breath. And out. Take a moment. Breathe with your whole body. Because remember, your whole body is breathing. We breathe with our lungs on a macroscopic kind of level, but that breath in the lungs, that oxygen, that chi gets transferred into the blood The blood then is pumped by the heart through the circulatory system, through all of our arteries, where then it diffuses out into our capillary bed, into all of our tissues, into all of our cells. And each one of our cells is performing aerobic metabolism. They're breathing in order to be alive. So when you breathe with your lungs, but invite that breath to every cell of your body. Qigong. Gong means cultivation. So we're cultivating the breath. Not just cultivating the act of breathing, but cultivating the breath. What is the breath? The name that can be named is not the eternal name. We call it breath, but what is it? Is it spirit? Is it the divine energy of the universe that animates us? Is it oxygen that's everywhere, permeating everything? Call it what you want. Here we'll call it Qi. So invite Qi into your whole body. And we can facilitate this invitation with some movement. So let's move with the breath. So we can let our arms float out to the sides. And then a nice long, slow breath. So we're going to inhale all the way. Hands come up to the chest. Turn the palms up and then exhale as your arms reach out to the sides. And then again, inhale. Nice and slow. Hold at the top of the inhale and then exhale. Hold at the bottom of the exhale and then inhale. Take your time with this. It can sometimes be a little challenging, but just work with it. A nice long, slow inhale, inhaling as the hands come up. And then exhale. And you may finish your exhale before your arms reach out to the sides. Just hold and then inhale. Receive the breath into your body. Let it fill you up. And then let it go. Let's do a couple more. Inhaling. Holding at the top of the inhale if you need to, and then exhale. 3 more. Inhale. Maybe hold at the top of the breath nice and full, and then exhale. One more time, a nice, long, slow inhale. And out. Let's allow this movement to evolve. So you can inhale the hands up to the heart. And then exhale, let your arms reach out in front of you. And then inhale, bring the hands to the shoulders. And exhale, relax here, your knees can bend. And then inhale, stretch up, you can look up. And exhale, out to the sides. And again, inhale. And exhale, open. Inhale in. Relax here. Exhale, settle, stretch in the shoulders and the chest. And then inhale, reaching up. Stretch, look up. And exhale. So this is the first movement of one of the versions of the 8 treasures. Again, inhale up to the heart. Exhale, let the arms float out in front. And then inhale, bring the hands to the shoulders. Relax, exhale, stretching. And then inhale, reach up, stretch through your wrists, look up, and exhale. 2 more. Open your heart, sharing your heart. Inhale, receive the breath. Exhale, relax. Then the knees of the elbows be heavy. And then inhale, press, stretch, engage your sinews. And exhale. Last one. In and out. And in and out. Relax. And in and out. Next movement, let's trace the meridian so we can inhale and exhale the hands down the back of the head. Inhale and exhale your hands over your head. Inhale under your collarbones and armpits. And then exhale as your hands travel down the back of your legs. Take your time. We did this move last week. Inhale the hands up the front of the body. Nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And exhale the hands out. Bring your palms to face you. Inhale. And exhale the hands over. Inhale under the collarbones and armpits. And exhale down the backside of the body. Inhale up. All the way, hold at the top of the inhale, and then exhale out the arms. Bring your palms to face you. And then inhale the hands over. Exhale as the hands come back over. Inhale under the collarbones and armpits. And exhale down the back of the body. Inhale up the front, all the way, long and slow. And then exhale out the arms. Bring your palms to face you. Let's do 2 more. In, out. In, out. In, out. Palms face. Last one. In, out. In and out. In and out. Palms face. And then let's inhale the arms up. And exhale them around. Down to the sides. Just take a couple moments to breathe. So the intensity of our movements can be regulated by the sinews. And we've talked about engaging the sinews, really stretching through the wrist, pressing down through the legs and the outside edge of the feet to really get a strong sensation in the sinews. If you want more intensity, you can do that. If you want less intensity, you don't have to engage as vigorously. The sinew meridians are regulated by the breath. So really inhaling fully into the stretch and exhaling and discharging into the relaxation. And again, the intensity of the sinews does not have to be vigorous in order for the breath to really be utilized. Next movement, let's paint the waterfall. So inhale, hands float up, and then exhale, bending the knees, and then inhaling up. And you can follow your hands with your gaze and exhale down. Knees can bend, hands can come down past your legs even, and then inhaling up and out. And again, using the sinews, making it more intense, really stretch through the wrists as you inhale, stretch through the legs, and then exhale, stretching the other direction. Or it can be gentle, nice and easy. Modifying the movement, let's inhale the hands up, and then exhale out to the sides. Let's do a couple more like this, just breathing in and out. Breathe all the way out and then fill yourselves up. And out. And we can turn this movement into the lymph pump. So inhale the hands up. When they get up, turn them up and look. And then exhale, make fists with your hands. Bring your fists together, squeeze them together, chin towards the chest, and then inhale yourself up, palms up, look up, and exhale. Fists with the hands, fists with the feet, even fists with the face. And again, inhaling and exhale. Wring yourself out. Squeeze all of that carbon dioxide out of your tissues, out of your bodies, and then inhale. Fill yourself up with oxygen. Move at your pace. Inhaling. Exhale. Take your time. Focus on the breath. Let the movement facilitate the breath. Let this opening create more space for oxygen to come in and fill. And then exhale and see if you can squeeze as much of your body as you can. Places that you didn't know you could squeeze. See if you can wring them out and then fill it up. Let that rebound of inhalation just happen. Let's do 3 more. Fists with the hands and the feet and the face, maybe even the perineum, the floor of the pelvis. 1 more, inhaling and exhaling. And then you can roll yourself up to stand and relax. And just take a couple moments. Feel your body. Breathe with every cell of your body. Perhaps you're generating a light sweat. So the byproducts of breathing oxygen and burning glucose, carbon dioxide, and water. So when we are exhaling completely, when we have a little bit of a sweat, that is a sign that things are working. There is chemical energy being released inside your body. So you can feel into the sensation of your body, feel into the sensation of that chemical energy that you are creating. Invite it to flow through your body. Let's do another movement to facilitate the flow. So our hands can come to the side of our waists. Let's inhale. And on the exhale, bend your knees like you're digging in. You don't have to go too deep. Lift your toes, your weights in your heels, and inhale, lift the arms up. And then exhale, just let the hands flow down the body to the lower dantian, and then inhale. Exhale, slight bend in the knees, digging in, and inhale, gathering up. And exhale. Work with your breath. Inhale and exhale. In and out. In and out. And in and out. Our leg muscles, in particular our thighs and our hips, are some of the biggest muscles in our body. Very full of blood and oxygen, ideally, but most of us spend a lot of time sitting in chairs, on couches, at desks, in cars, and we're not using our legs as much as as our ancestors did. So this is a big area of the body that might be a little oxygen deprived. So as we inhale, and then exhale and bend our knees, bringing more blood into our muscles, and inhaling and exhaling through the body, getting these big muscles working, getting blood and oxygen pumping through them. There is a lot of potential energy in our legs. So let's use it so that it doesn't have to be stored in our knees and our ankles and our low backs. Then it's just trouble looking for a place to happen. Let's give it somewhere to go and give it something to do, like move, flow, nourish. Two more. Nice big inhale. And an exhale, you can sink as deep as feels comfortable, and then inhale and exhale. Let the hands float down to the lower dantian. And then the hands can relax by your sides. And just take a moment. Again, feel your breathing. Maybe you're breathing a little harder than normal. That's good. Breathe in through your nose. Nice, slowly, lightly, deeply. Breathe out through your nose as well. Feeling the movement of your breath, feeling the beating of your heart, feeling perhaps the light perspiration on your skin. We are generating energy, chemical energy. We're generating qi. We are creating the situation, creating the field for electron transportation, movement of energy down a concentration gradient. It's very scientific. So now let's do a breath-specific practice. It's one of my favorite practices. It's called Qi, Shi, Hu. Qi means inhale. Hu means exhale. So we inhale twice and we exhale once. And the inhalations are just nice little sips of air because we're taking 2 of them. They don't need to be very big. And the exhalation is nice and long and slow. So let's do it. And we'll begin very slowly. So you can follow me. It's like this. We inhale, and again, and exhale. And you can exhale through your nose if you like. And again, she, hu. Just the breath. In, hold, and out. And again. This can be done as a walking Qigong as well. If you'd like to do it, we can walk in place. It's like this. She, hu. So this way it works with balance as well. Return to standing. A little faster. She, hu. She, hu. Focus on the exhale. She, hu. She, hu. A little faster. She, hu. She, hu. She, hu. Ten more. Three, 2, 1, bonus. Big inhale and exhale. Breathe. Feel. You might feel a little light, a little swimmy, even just breathe. You've released a lot of chemical energy into your body, man. That's what you're feeling. So feel that as it flows through your body. Feel the chemicals that your body produces. That sensation of flow. That sensation of space. Be empty and be present. Mystery of mysteries, the source of wonder. And 3 deep breaths. A big inhale, arms out and up. And exhale. Again, inhale. And exhale. Are we breathing or are we being breathed? One more. is our breathing consciously facilitating the breathing of the universe consciously. A friend of mine once said, all we have is this breath, and in this breath, all is well. Let's fold our hands over the lower dantian. Allow your awareness to settle in your lower dantian, under your hands, under your belly button. Allow your awareness to guide your breath, to guide the qi into the lower dantian. And as your breath fills in the lower dantian, allow it to expand to include your whole body. And we can massage our bellies. And we can rub our hands together. And let's massage our face a couple times. Back and forth over the top of the head. Down the back of the neck and around over the chest to the belly and around the waist to the low back. And then we can draw our hands out, shake them out. And then nice and easy, we'll pat up one arm, down, up the other arm, down the back of the body, front. One more time. Rubbing the belly and a little shake. Breathe. You are alive. All right. Well, I hope everybody is feeling good and enjoyed that. And again, I hope that you can take from this that this concept of qi isn't so esoteric or far out. It's really just, breathing and eating and being alive and using our energy. And if it feels like we have too much energy, we can regulate that with the breath and movement. If it feels like we don't have enough energy, we can regulate that with the breath and the movement. We can regulate our qi. And when we regulate our internal qi, we're participating in the regulation of universal qi. So since we can do that, and since we're really doing it, whether we're aware of it or not, why not do it with awareness and on purpose? Then we're cultivating qi, or Qigonging. All right. So thank you again for letting me kind of ramble on about things that I really like talking about. And I hope you all have a wonderful a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. And if you'd like a recording of this class today, please just let me know and I will send you the link. Okay, so thank you so much for practicing with me and for participating in this class. It was wonderful to be here with all of you and to know that even though we're physically far apart, we're very much connected through this practice and through our breath. We're all breathing the same air. We're all under the same sky. We're all standing on the same earth. And that is a wonderful thing. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.